We welcome you to yet another episode here at the Debate Circle. Kicking us off in this motion, we have Mount Laverna Girls versus Mang'u High School. And the motion of dissection reads, the Kenyan government should offer incentives to financial institutions that provide youth-friendly banking services, including tailored education resources and low-cost accounts to promote financial literacy among Kenyan youth. It's a very wordy motion. I will read it again. The Kenyan government should offer incentives to financial institutions that provide youth-friendly banking services, including tailored educational resources and low-cost accounts to promote financial literacy among the Kenyan youth. All the best to both teams. Team proposition first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Cornelia Oluk from the Mount Laverna Girls Secondary School, and today I come with food for all of you. But not the type of food you eat. It's food for thought, so listen carefully. The motion of dissection is the Kenyan government should offer incentives to financial institutions that provide youth-friendly banking services, including tailored educational resources and low-cost accounts to promote financial literacy among Kenyan youth. Let's start with the first keyword, incentives. An incentives is a payment or a concession to stimulate greater output or investment. Second thing, youth-friendly banking. This is essentially making banking more accessible, understandable, and beneficial for the youth. Next, tailored educational resources. This is providing information and tools to teach young people about money, savings, budgeting, and investing in a way that's simple and easy to understand. Finally, financial literacy. This is the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills, including personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. And lastly, low-cost accounts. These are accounts that have benefits. Benefits such as free deposits, free debit cards, free monthly statements, and up to 15 transactions per month. So, as team proposition, we want the government to give financial institutions these incentives. And how do we go about it? Well, we bring a policy for you. This policy was extracted from the reliable Mebron accounts, and we have a framework. First things first, the vision and mission of the policy. The vision and mission can be got from the topic of the motion. We want incentives to be offered, we want financial literacy, and we want tailored educational resources and low-cost accounts. Next, environmental analysis. According to my Inventor Business Book 4, one of the things that makes policies fail is not involving the people who are actually going to be impacted. And standardmedia.co.ke did a study on Blaze. I'm sure we all remember Blaze, right? Where hundreds of youths were lining up to be able to get financial literacy and for their ideas to be heard and even invested on. So they said that Blaze was meant for youths under 26 years old, so our target is reached, right? This shows that the youths are willing and ready to get financial literacy. Next is SWOT, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats we might face. So the strength is the youths are already willing and ready. Next, weaknesses and threats. I'm sure team opposition might come and tell us, what if the youths don't pay back? What if they're irresponsible? This is where we look at Jam Trinity, which is in India and was reported on the Daily Nation. Basically, they said that in India, they offer credit services to farmers in rural areas, and to ensure that there's transparency, they link their details with their biometrics and national ID cards. So in our policy, we can do the same exact thing. Next, it's monitoring and evaluation. A board can be set up to make sure that the financial institutions actually use the incentives for the right purpose and that the youths get their education. Finally, communication and alignment. This can be done through various social media apps, news reports, newspapers, and so on. More will be said by Speaker 2 and 3. Thank you.
And one thing I'm going to have to do is basically repeat the motion, because it seems that they didn't understand the basic concepts. I'm going to redefine 2 terms, incentives. These are rewards given to encourage behavior that align with the objectives of the government. Now next, I'm going to define financial literacy. This is information, knowledge, and skills needed by the youth to manage their funds and develop their financial life for the future. Now, the burden of the motion, what is the burden of the motion? The burden of the motion is to ask whether the government should offer incentives or not to promote financial literacy. Has anyone heard team proposition saying how they're going to promote financial literacy? I don't think so. Just saying they have this plan to implement this incentives or whatever. However, they're not telling you how exactly these incentives promote this financial literacy. Now, I've come here to do the opposite. I've come to actually tell you about the motion and tell you why I strongly oppose these incentives. Number one, how many people have access to banks among the youth? The Kenyan government does not cater for the Nairobi/metropolitan majority. It caters for each and every single person in the country. What about the kids in Turkana? Not actually the kids, the youth in Turkana. How often do they get access to these incentives and banks? I don't think they really do. And I don't think that's quite humanitarian for the debate motion. Now, I've said that we shouldn't do this for this reason. I'm going to give another reason why I should give these incentives. Now, I've said that incentives are rewards given to encourage behavior that align with the policy objective of the government. Now, let me tell you something. One of the main problems facing our financial institutions in Kenya is fraud. So we're giving incentives, rewards to fraud. I don't really think so. That's not the correct thing to do. Now, what alternatives am I giving to these so-called incentives of there, which are actually promoting fraud instead of financial literacy? I am coming with integration to formal education. You integrate this financial literacy into formal education. All of us here are seniors. All of us here have read the KLB mathematics. You're taught about commercial arithmetic. That is integration into formal education. I am giving you something that you can use, that you've already experienced, that can be used even by people who don't have access to banks. It's easy, it's cheap, it's affordable, it's everything you want and more. Now, what else am I doing? I'm not giving this to the government. I'm giving this to the NGOs and civil societies that are actually rooted within financial literacy. They have their roots so deep in the community that they can actually help those people. What am I talking about? Why am I saying the government doesn't have deep roots while these NGOs have deep roots? Let me tell you something. The Central Bank of Kenya did a survey recently of how many people have access to banking services. Now, the survey only took place among 30,000 people. The population of Kenya is not 30,000 people. Now, I'll finish by saying that we want to oppose these incentives and offer you an actual solution for what will help you with financial literacy. So unless team proposition is going to tell us how their incentive is actually going to propose this financial literacy, I think this debate is over. Game on.
He came and he tried to convince or to ask us, how are these incentives going to promote financial literacy among the youth? I have an answer for you. Now, we give these incentives to these financial institutes that offer the related banking services to youths, which are friendly. Now, they can use these same incentives to improve on their technology, which we tend to call technological advancement when it comes to these terms, where they will involve technology to help reach the youth in the rural areas by using things like SMS messages. Yes. I take you all the way to Turkana, where he says they don't have access to banks, they have access to SMS. They don't have access to internet, we give them SMS. We give 100 million to a bank like KCB, an already thriving bank. And we'll tell them we want them to reach the youth at the suburbs through SMS. We give this same money to banks at the city. We tell them we want the youths at Nairobi to be also helped. They give them mobile apps and they give them online platforms. As simple as that. He also said that how many youths have access to banks and incentives. I believe I have answered this question. Now, on to my first point. We have the world coin disaster that happened just a few months ago, whereby they came to Kenya and they took our biometrics, the iris and everything, for a sole 7,000 shillings a week. Now, over 350,000, actually the population of Kenya is over 300,000. Over 350,000 Kenyans signed up for this. Now let us assume 67% of these 350,000 were youths. I want you to take that 67% and put it right there. We give them the incentives. We give them the money to do this. We give them the We give them the tailored educational services, and we give them the low-cost accounts. And we put it right there with these youths. And we tell them, this is easier to make money. Do you know the dire repercussions that came with this? 7,000 shillings a week. They gave away their personal information, that's one. After 1 week, they used that 7,000, that same 7,000 to get their eyes treated, because a good percentage of them complained that they had eye problems. And now, according to research of the Menbaru, a good 90% of these 350,000 people had zero information on financial literacy. By financial literacy, we are going to teach them 1, how to make money, 2, how to save money, and 3, how to make sure that money is safe. And that is why we bring with us our working framework. Mount Laverna, the debate circle, just another day we do it better. We give you 1, a vision and a mission, 2, environmental analysis, where we ask the youth what they want and we give them exactly that, 3, the strength, 4, the goals, 5, monitoring and evaluation, 4, community alignment. That has been Mount Laverna signing out.
As side opposition, we are not against financial literacy, because that is all you have said. The burden of the motion is to say why we need these incentives, and you have not really dwelled on that. That is why I do not really have any rebuts. And I will start on to my first point, why the government should not offer incentives to these financial institutions. Our government currently is incapable and is not in the right state to offer these incentives. Why am I saying so? Our country is trillions deep in debt. That is basic. 16% of Kenyans live below the poverty line, according to the Kenya Bureau of Statistics. Where will our government get the money to offer these incentives? Because, as we have already said, what we are trying to bring on the table is that financial literacy is already being promoted by the government itself by integrating it into our syllabus. Even in your inventor business, you are already taught about financial literacy. So we are not really seeing the reason as to why we need these incentives to be offered. If you have a better solution, you can bring it to the table. Second, effectiveness of these incentives. Financial institutions are profit-driven. That is their primary objective. What are we seeing here? There's a big conflict of interest. Their main aim is not to promote financial literacy or provide youth-friendly banking services, but rather to make profit. So how will these financial institutions not diverge from their main goal, which is to promote financial literacy? And on to my last point, I like to talk about primary reliance on these incentives. Some financial institutions may not have the capacity to provide financial literacy and youth-friendly banking services on their own. What am I saying? If these incentives are withdrawn, we will not have youth-friendly banking services, and we will not have youth-friendly banking services and financial literacy being promoted. I think if these incentives are withdrawn, these financial institutions will not be able to do what we want them to do, and that is to promote financial literacy. And if you all do not agree with this, bring us a feasible solution. And it is for these reasons that I strongly oppose the motion. Thank you.
Incentives. First of all, you told us that we are taught financial literacy in business. Excusez-moi, monsieur, je fais le français. Meaning, I do French. How will I know about incentives? I had incentives from this motion, actually. Yeah? Not everyone does business. Je fais le français. Yeah? I, Mugala Libutuli, join me as I propose this motion that the Kenyan government should actually offer incentives to financial institutions. Financial inclusions. If I may define what it means, these are efforts to make financial products and services accessible and affordable to all individuals and businesses, regardless of their net worth or company use. There are very many social statuses in this country. Yeah? There are people of the higher social class, the lower social class. Even when you go to events in school, you can see that. You can see this school is so high up, this one is so down, you know? So we need these incentives to be provided to financial institutions that are not very stable, financial institutions that cannot accommodate what they have to offer, yeah? So that they may be able to provide financial literacy to youth, especially us. They keep on telling us, youths are the leaders of tomorrow. Youths, we should depend on youths for this and that. Yet, we don't even know about financial literacy. How is that? How is that going to work? Personally, I said I don't do business, yeah? In my school, we were using cash before for pocket money. But right now, we're using prepaid cards. Oh no, Mugala doesn't know about prepaid cards. Mugala has never experienced prepaid cards. How am I going to know about this? I give an example of what my school did. During our closing assembly, they had people from Equity come to my school and talk to us about the importance of financial literacy. That is how Mugala understood that financial literacy is important, and that is how Mugala understood how to use a prepaid card, because she didn't know. Mugala doesn't do business. She doesn't know. And I am just a representative of very many youth out there. So I strongly propose that the Kenyan government should definitely offer incentives to financial institutions to provide financial literacy. Another importance of financial inclusions and financial literacy, it enables us to promote small businesses, to make businesses develop, to make businesses go up. Because maybe these businesses are small because they don't have the capacity to sustain themselves. So the government offers incentives and they're able to be helped. And guess what I have? Surprise, surprise, surprise. I have statistics. There are, as the first speaker mentioned, the JAM Trinity, where they offered the people of India finances so that the economy may be able to grow. And at some point, Kenya was at the same level with India. But right now, they are doing so much better. So I think, just like the way Drake and Kendrick battled, and Drake looks like he's going to win, I think we see who's going to win, yeah?
Good morning, Africa. It's Thai favorite Artemas Kimani, and my motion here is to bring sweetness, just like the yogurts, to this motion. As I start, I'll do this in simpler terms, okay? I'll start with the rebuts, I'll follow the summary, and then I'll end this show because, come on, you have time. Rebuts. First speaker. I don't know the name, but you missed a very strong point because she gave us policies, good policy actually. She told us about environmental, how we'll give a conducive environment for these things to work, but then she didn't tell us where will you get the funds. We live in Kenya, a third-rate country. Look at the Kenyan economy right now. We have trillions of debts. We have things to pay to the I&M and the World Bank. So will we invest in incentives, financial incentives that is, or will you concentrate on doing things that matters? There are priorities, okay? Priorities. Will you feed people in Turkana or offer flood reliefs, or will direct our funds incentives? Come on, we live in Kenya again. These guys live in La La Land, but live in the reality world. Second speaker, I guess she took her big figure. She's still in the bracket. She tell us, let us give this government 100 million of money to these youths, so that they can spy in the making of these incentives. But then I ask again, where will the funds come from? They tell us, they give us solutions, but then tell us, how will you achieve these solutions? Give direct solution. Don't just tell us, where should we get these funds? Tell us where and why and when will you get these funds? Third speaker completely misunderstood the motion in the aspect of this motion you're talking about, why should the government give incentives to promote financial literacy, and not why should the government, why only benefits of literacy? Because the only thing she did here is only give benefits of literacy. It's telling us how benefits of this literacy are so good, but she diverted all the way out of the main topic. Why should the government give incentives? Okay, Now to the summary. Kenya, again, I'll be clear in this point. Kenya in its status quo doesn't have the capacity or the ability to fund this and implement this policy. Because look at us, guys. Let's be realistic for once. We can't go misdirecting funds to things that don't actually matter. Because why do we refund funds to incentives instead of taking them to where places matter? Things like drought relief. People are dying in Turkana because of hunger. Or in the actual sense you want us, instead of taking this money to Turkana, we should take them to incentives. That sounds so illogical. Again, guys, let's wake up. Let's be realistic. We have given you alternative. You have told you alternative, like instead of giving these financial organizations literacy and financial incentives, we should at least invoice on community-based programs, which are cheaper, safer, and way direct. Community-based programs enable guys to go up with substandard community level and overcome this threat. My time ends there. Thank you, guys.
I am tired of trying to convince the proposition team on why we should give these incentives. So he asks, well, how sure are we that this money will be used for the purpose of what we want it to be used? We gave you a working framework, and in the framework we involved what we called monitoring and evaluation. This is whereby we will have a committee that will overlook the distribution of this money and ensure that this money will be put into good use. He also asked, where will the incentives come from? The incentives will come from a responsible government. A government that does not spend 600 million shillings on transport of someone to the US to bring us nothing, but will spend 100 million shillings on this that we are proposing to you right now. They have pocketed among their speakers what they do not want to tell us, like what are the alternatives of financial literacy. We are yet to see that. Now, something else, he also said that we should look on the something about the suburbs and the rural areas. We gave you a solution to that. I suppose you drink your yogurt because your points are tasteless. Thank you.
The time begins in 3, 2, 1. Ich habe für sehr lang Deutsch gelernt und ich weiß alles etwas Geld. I have learned German for the longest time and I know everything about money. Not because it's only business studies that teaches about financial literacy, because also mathematics. Who doesn't know mathematics? It's the compulsory subject of the KCSE. Now why have we won the debate? Because they didn't understand the burden of the motion. The last speaker came and told us that they've given us a framework. A framework. They have a framework on how to apply it. However, we want how this framework is going to help financial literacy, not the actual framework. Plus, we already have a framework that's actually working. We have class lessons. And in finality, she said that they don't know about financial literacy. That they had a talk in their school about prepaid cards. That is a school initiative. That is integration into formal education. Now, we are a third world country suffering from financial disparity. I talked about fraud. I talked about everything that they are not talking about. I'm going to ask them this. Do you really have a guaranteed method on how we're going to solve these problems in Kenya before we start employing frameworks that don't work? That's all.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please, for both teams on stage.
Thank you. That was a good debate. The 6 of you are good communicators. I like that you have the confidence on stage. And I'll move right into it. Cornelia, you had a good introduction with definition of terms. You're a good communicator. I like that you're able to cite some of your sources. I had one point on your submission when you mentioned that WorldCoin is a disaster. WorldCoin is not a disaster, so you'd have looked for better words to describe it. The issue of it causing eye problems, you didn't cite any sources, or it has not been authenticated. You don't have somewhere that can authenticate that whatever happened with WorldCoin caused eye problems. So we need to be careful on that.
Congratulations to the 2 teams on stage. You have tried your best. I may not want to repeat what my co-judge has said, but Cornelia, I loved your presentation. That was good. You broadly looked at the issues. The only thing I captured that was negative on your side was you talked about India and quoted on Daily Nation, but you did not tell us when. Maybe you would want to know when. Angel, you did a very good job on cross-examination. You quoted your sources, and that was good. You are passionate on stage. But when you came back for the 1 minute, you had more to say than the required time. Elsie Mogala, that was a wonderful job. I love your passion. You also quoted Kenya versus India being at the same point at some point. You needed to have told us when you got that information from. To Mang'u High School, Trevor, when I hear you on stage, I remember Pastor Chineke Chiamaka. You have a reverberating voice, and that was quite okay. You have the presence, and that is quite good. Keep it up. But your quote on the CBK research, you could have brought it in a more detailed manner so that we really capture exactly what you needed to put across. Albert, you are good. The only issue is ensure you have more content to use your time properly. That is the only negative I captured in your work. Kimani, you are good. A passionate speaker. Good cross-examination. You actually cross-examined the 3 ladies. And that means you were a good listener when they were doing their job. Thank you so much.